Just a quick disclaimer before we start. So, there will be some pointers or recommendations which are necessary and some which are good to have. But since we are discussing it, so I'll mention everything for the sake of it. So, the first thing which I notice is that it has a lot of info, but still not cluttered or difficult to read, which really works in your favor. One thing is that I did find a lot of grammatical errors, so make sure that you run a grammar check on your resume once. And coming to the first part, which is the relevant coursework part. So, in the relevant coursework section, you have actually mentioned a lot of topics, and each of this topic or concept is really deep in itself. So, artificial intelligence, operating system, these are all branches of computer science and really vast in themselves. And since you've mentioned all these topics in your relevant coursework, and also you have a decent GPA, so you can't deny or you can't say that I don't know this particular concept. I've never heard about it, because what you're conveying is that you have actually studied all these things in your college and you know it is part of your skill set. So one thing is that maybe you can subtract few topics which might be difficult for you or which you're not very proficient with. So similarly with technical skills section as well, a lot of buzzwords are mentioned like computer vision, AI/ML, and web development, OpenCV, and all these things. So these are really vast topics in themselves. And if you mention these as your technical skills, then you should be ready to answer all the questions, even the tough ones, because there might be an interviewer who might want to grill you, who might not be in a good mood and actually starts asking you hard questions. And even for the languages, so if you see that Python, C++, Java, you've mentioned a lot of languages. So just being able to write a simple program is not enough to say that I know this language completely, because there are a lot of nuances associated with the language. So for say with C++, you have concept of runtime polymorphism, virtual pointers. With Java, you have the heap and stack concept and garbage collection concept and lot of other things. With Python, you have global interpreted logs and multi-threading and knowing the OOPS concept in Python. So there are a lot of nuances associated with the technical language. So one thing is that either you write only the ones in which you are very confident, or somehow you indicate your proficiency in that topic, so that the interviewer knows that what level of questions they should ask, or how much do you know. So now moving on to the projects, one thing which is good is that you've provided the links as well. So these links actually add credibility. I don't think someone in a very big company are going to actually open these links because they have so many resumes to check or to vet. I don't think they'll have the time to check these links, but maybe in a startup or some other organization, they might actually open these links and check that what you've provided. So for the projects part, I felt that the statements or the content is a little vague. When you're mentioning your projects or experience, a good practice is to actually mention what problem you're trying to solve, then mention what was the solution you used or what was your contribution or how you solved it. And third part is what was the result, what was the impact, or what was your learning. So you can actually follow this three-step approach to mention about your projects and experiences. So the content in the project section I found a little vague. So you should be more specific about what was the problem you were trying to solve. And then like when you're mentioning a machine learning project, you can actually mention that what was the accuracy, recall, precision, AUC you achieved, and like what was the impact, were you actually able to use this fake news classification somewhere, or was it just a project that you made to understand machine learning even better? So if that was the case, what was your actual learning? And you've also not mentioned about like what was your training data, what was your test data, validation data, what was the split. So those important details, if you add there, it gives an idea or it gives an impression that you actually know the stuff you have mentioned. Now coming to the second project, so second project seems a bit unrealistic based on the timeline provided. So you've written August to November, and it seems really hard to actually create an end-to-end video conferencing platform in just August to November. So if you picked a lot of code from somewhere, Then mention the things that you did yourself, or what was your contribution, or what were the new things that you developed apart from the code that was also picked up from the net. There's nothing wrong, but you should actually focus on what was your specific contribution or learning. Also, in the project section, make sure that you highlight the key terms or the keywords in the sentences, so that if someone doesn't want to read everything, they can actually see those key terms. Now, you can follow the same approach for your experience as well, but since experience is mostly around problem setting, I think this is good enough. Coming to the achievements part, for competitive programming as well, you can reduce a little info. So if you see that round 880, round 827, that doesn't really make sense to the interviewer. I mean, it makes sense. They know that what is Code Force's contest, and this is round 880, this is 827. But for an interviewer, 880 and 827 are kind of similar things. Like, how is that going to affect anything? So it's kind of a useless info for the interviewer, unless that round was something very special or something different happened in that round. Why I'm saying that you can remove it, because it is looking a little cluttered, and I might not go through each of these points because it looks very similar, and I might think that this is not going to add a lot of info, or I'm not going to get a lot of info from this about you. So maybe you can shorten it a bit so that it is easier for the interviewer to go through it, and still you're conveying everything. Because removing these info, I don't think that will have any impact or information that will cause any information loss. And also it will make your resume look even more neater. So it's already neat and it's already decent, but yeah, it'll shorten your resume a bit and it'll be more legible for the interviewer.